Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first episode of the series Crack IELTS with Sagnik. In this entire series, we will discuss about strategies to effectively crack IELTS examination and possibly achieve a grade which is 8 or even more. Now, please remind yourself one of this crucial factor, which is generally, revolving around the internet, which is IELTS is generally a test of English proficiency. So firstly, please remember that IELTS is definitely a test of English proficiency, but along with this, there is also one very crucial factor, which is knowledge, right? So many people misses this because they think that the entire examination is constructed on the basis that how I'll be able to present my points in a more constructed fashion and effectively use my English language skills. But please remember that without your knowledge, you can't present your points in English, right? So you need definitely some views or perspectives about certain areas like, geopolitics or, environmental issues, right? So these are some kind of areas that you should definitely learn about. There are also health and medtech. So these are all very important factors when it comes to the IELTS examination, because questions often arise from these areas itself, right? So it should be very clear to everyone that you should definitely be proficient in English, but along with this, you should have knowledge about these certain factors as well. Now, along with this, this particular series is dedicated for students and professionals. Now, persons belonging from this background often mentions one challenge they face, and that is time, right? So during the preparation course itself, people might face difficulties in managing their daily life schedule along with the IELTS preparatory journey, and because of that, it can sometimes be very overwhelming for certain individuals. So I'll be discussing about ways to effectively mitigate such situation, because I'm a person who is also in corporate industry, and during my preparation journey also I faced several challenges overcoming those certain factors, and definitely I was able to crack IELTS examination, and I hope that you will be able to crack it too. Now, this entire series is divided into subcomponents of listening, reading, writing, and speaking. So I've written this in abbreviated forms, right? Now, it's very essential for us to understand the format of a IELTS examination before we, start today's video. That is, during the examination, LRW section is generally composed as a single unit. So a time slot is given to this particular unit. Along with this, there is also a unit which is called as speaking section, and a separate time slot is provided for this particular section as well, right? So individuals who are appearing for the first time for the IELTS examination, you should remember that you will be allocated different time slots for both of these units in a single day. You can definitely choose it accordingly to you, and based on that you have to appear for this particular test, right? So let's start with the video. So today's objective is about IELTS Writing Task 1. So what I've done essentially is try to break down this particular IELTS exam into subsections like listening, reading, writing, and speaking. And in writing also I've divided into task 1 and task 2. The main reason to divide into such singular units is because if I try to make a entire video, firstly it would be very long, right? It would be of a 7 to 8 hours of a total video, and it might create problems or difficulties for the viewers to navigate through the entire video and extract some of the crucial information from that. And because of this particular reason, I've tried to divide it into subsections and try to present in front of you. Now, moving forward, who am I? So, I'm Sagnik. I'm currently a bioengineering graduate, and I hold an experience in the field such as research analyst, right, and data analysis, right. Now, I generally have worked, especially in the industries such as healthcare infrastructure, uh, biomarker discovery. So in the biomarker field itself, health tech solutions and AI based medical tools, right? So these are some of my portfolio projects that I've done over the years. And if you need some help, I can definitely try to provide to you as well. In this particular channel, which is Sagnik is Curious, I generally provide insights about health, technology, and practical learning tips to help you grow and stay informed about the bioengineering world. Now, one of the questions that may revolve around the viewer's head is that, am I competent to teach you IELTS? Now, during my preparation journey, when I was an aspirant like yourself, I was basically managing both of my work life along with my study sections. And during that time, I often faced one critical challenge, that is, I was not finding enough resources regarding preparation of the speaking section. And the real life challenges that aspirant faces during their examination, right? What happens in the IELTS test center? So, for example, if you try to search, in YouTube about the writing section, you may find videos stretching across length of 17 to 30 minutes long. But please remember that when you are appearing in front of a live examiner in your IELTS examination, the length will be generally between 11 to 15 minutes. So you have to articulate your points and present within that time period. But if you try to analyze this video, it more often appears like a podcast. Okay, so you don't have to perform a podcast in front of your examination, right? Examiner. Why? Because it might be like that you want to present all of your perspectives, but please remember that there is a time limit in the IELTS examination, right? So you have to always judge every aspect of IELTS by the time itself. So as I mentioned, I cracked IELTS in my first attempt itself, right? With an overall band of 8, managing both of my job and studies. So my IELTS scores were, in the writing section, I scored a band of 8. In the listening section, I also scored a 8 band. In the reading section, I scored 8.5, and in speaking, a 8 band. So the overall band was 8. But one of the important areas we need to understand is about the writing section, which is of a 8 band. Now, most of the non-native English speakers, in especially persons, those who are from the country in which English is not a predominant language, they can generally face difficulty while dealing with writing and speaking sections. Now, if you go on internet and browse through some of the journals, you may find research papers that are suggesting that there is a decrease in the cognitive ability in the modern world regarding humans. What might attribute to this condition is that definitely there are several factors, but one of the primary factor is the invent of artificial intelligence, and because of this there is an overall decrease in our creative ability, right? So we are not able to present our views in a format which is required by IELTS, or we are not able to write properly. One of the essential things you can do to resolve this certain challenge is that you can practice daily. Okay, by practicing daily, you are able to a perfect band, even, right? A perfect band of 9 is possible by regularly practicing in this exam. It is very important for us to understand the format of this exam before we try to prepare, right? Now, regarding my experience and expertise, I have a strong understanding of the IELTS exam pattern and the strategies. So basically, based out of my entire IELTS preparation, I was able to effectively navigate those certain challenges. And in this entire series I will specify those challenges and constraints that I faced, and based on that I would definitely give you some strategies to clear this examination. Apart from that, there are also some practical tips. So as I mentioned that there is a huge lacuna that is existing in this internet space, that is there is very less amount of real life experiences that are provided. And it is very important for us to understand that aspect only, because you may perform well in simulated environments, but the real life testing day is very different, right? So you need to prepare accordingly. Apart from that, I believe that based on this I am able to guide students to achieve their high band scores efficiently. Moving forward, let us understand about the IELTS writing section itself. Okay, because for every exam it's very crucial for us to understand about the overall pattern before attempting or starting our journey, right? So generally the IELTS exam is conducted in 4 subsections, which are listening, reading, writing and speaking. This is considered as a singular unit, which is generally referred as LRW section, and speaking is considered as another unit. The unit I am referring to is based on the timings that are often appointed to them, right? So the speaking is conducted in a different time slot from the LRW section. So the speaking section can be before LRW section or after LRW section based on your timings that you have chosen, right? And the IELTS writing is one of 4 sections in the IELTS exam, and I would say this is very, very important. Okay, because this particular section will determine your grade, because people are often able to achieve high bands in listening and reading, but they face the major difficulty in the writing section and the speaking section. There are 2 major tasks in the IELTS writing section, which is task 1 and task 2. In the task 1, generally there are questions regarding graphs or maps or processes, or even there can be certain diagram which refers to the development of an organism, and based on those diagrams you have to present your essay. Task 2 is generally will discuss more about the overall conditions of our world. The time allocation that is usually given for each of the section is 60 minutes overall. So for task 1 there is 20 minutes which is given, and for task 2 the time given is 40 minutes. Okay, so please remember that you have to complete your task within this time itself, right? Within 60 minutes, right? For the task 1 there is also a very crucial aspect, that is word limit. So for task 1 the minimum word limit is 150. So you have to write more than 150 words. For task 2 it is 250 plus. So you have to minimum, the word limit is 250, you have to write more than this. If you write less than this, there will be marks which is deducted from your essay. Now you may ask that what is the maximum amount of word that a person can write in this time limit? Now see, it depends on several conditions like the person's typing speed or the thinking capability, but generally a person can write in between 200 to 250 words for task 1, and around 400 to 500 words for task 2, right? But again it's based on certain person's ability, and it generally varies across persons, so there is nothing to worry about. It's just that you have to remember that you have to write more than 150. So I have seen persons scoring even a 9 band by writing words between 150 to 200. So how we can approach the writing task 1? So before we are starting to answer our questions, it is very essential that we read all these points, right, and try to understand the questions, right, rather than just jumping blatantly and without thinking anything. We are just trying to write our answer. There is one often challenge that every aspirant faces, is that after writing up to a certain extent, for example after concluding the intro part of that particular essay, during starting on with the main body, they might face difficulty because they are not able to understand the question. So it is very critical for every one of us to follow this particular steps and plan accordingly. But again, the slide that you are currently seeing on your screen is generally catered for a general audience. Okay, it's not catered specifically for individuals. So it's very essential for every one of us to understand our own difficulties and challenges, right? So the first step is read carefully, right? So before you are writing your answer, it is very essential that you read the questions very carefully and try to extract information from that. Okay, so the second point only mentions that is to identify the key points, right? So for example, there is a question which shows you a line graph, right? So I'm just creating a hypothetical situation which shows you the car or number of cars in UK between 2000 and 2010, right? So from this, it is clear that it is talking about the number of cars that is there in the country of UK and between the year of 2000 and 2010. From this only you can get three critical information. After that, when you are analyzing your graph, it is very important that we try to extract some crucial information that we'll definitely practice along in this video itself. But as a general thumb rule, you should always try to extract information before writing. The next step is plan structure. It is often emphasized that you should plan the structure, or you should be able to visualize the entire structure. This visualization comes with repeated practice itself, right? So generally what happens is, in the writing part of IELTS, there are mainly three ways to approach a question. The way I followed is I divided that particular writing section into three parts, which starts with intro, the main body, and then the conclusion. And based on that, I was able to organize my ideas logically so that there's a coherent flow. Okay, when a reader reads through that particular essay, he is able to understand that particular point, right? The next step is use linking words, emphasized generally in every IELTS discussion whenever we are writing. Linking words is essential for an essay to maintain the flow of what happens is, if you are abruptly switching to certain sentences without completing or without linking it to the next sentence, then what happens is, when a reader reads through that essay, they might find it difficult to going through the flow of that particular essay, and because of this your band score might get affected. So you should use linking words that I will definitely introduce you to. There are certain linking words that you can use for certain situations. The next step is you should manage your time and words. Okay, now as I mentioned, for writing task 1, the time limit is the maximum time limit that is given is 20 minutes, right? So you need to complete it before 20 minutes. I would suggest complete it in 11 to 15 minutes, and keep 5 minutes extra for your task 2, because that takes time to think, right? Here the information will be visualized. It will be given, you just need to extract information and you need to present. But for task 2, you need to think it from the scratch, right? And the remaining 5 minutes after completing task 2, you can devote it for proofreading as well. So these are some of the key points that you can definitely use to increase your band score. Now let's visualize some of the line graphs. For example, this is one of the chart which was taken from UN population division, and over here you can see the population growth in India and China, right? So let's understand how we can approach this particular question. So if you see on your x-axis, so this is your x-axis, right, and this is your y-axis. I'm not drawing any line because it might create some visualization problems for viewers. So that's why I'm trying to avoid any kind of margins over here, right? Now in the line graphs, if you see, this particular x-axis represent your years, and in the y-axis it represents your total population in billion. So this is very important. Again, mark this, it is a critical feature. When you are writing your information, please mention every population. So if you are mentioning it is 1200, you need to write billions. Okay, don't mention it as a standalone figure. It will entirely change the concept of population growth, right? So now the second thing is, if you see here, please refer to this color. So the purple, the deep purple color is represented for India, and the light purple, or there is a slight pinkish color, which is represented for China. So in the year 2000, India was nearly about 1,000 billion population, right? And growing with the year, you can see in the year of now, maximum person feels that which year should I represent here. See, this is an approximate figure, so you should try to analyze yourself. Generally those who are not familiar with statistics, I'll just give them a hint. During approaching a statistical question, you should always understand how to calculate the midpoint, right, between two consecutive years. So for example, this is 2000 and 2010, so the midpoint will definitely be 2005. How it is coming is, you try to subtract it. So there is a 10-year gap, right, and the half, so this is a midpoint, so you need to divide it by 2, so it gives us 5. So you need to just add it to this particular figure, or even you can subtract, but generally it is advised to add this in this figure, so you'll get a figure of 2005. So between 2010 and 2020, this will be 2015, and consecutively like this. So any year which you are seeing, just try to draw an imaginary line. For example, this is in 2015, this is in 2010, so this will be around 2007 or 2006 or 2007, right? So you just try to understand that like this. Okay, now if you try to understand from the point of view of China, the China was definitely way ahead in 2000 than India. It was around more than 1200 billion. Again, the difference between this is 100, so again there will be a midpoint of 1250. So it was near about 1250 billion population. Okay, so like this, you have to analyze each of this point. Now see here, one of the key areas is that this is the intersection point. Okay, and it is in the year of 2030. Sorry for my line, this is in the year of 2030, right? So one of the critical features is that both India and China in the year of 2030 was experiencing the same population, right? So which is near about more than 1400 billion, right? So it is very essential that this year should be highlighted in your essay, because this is a critical juncture. Okay, and after this, if you see, India took a rise and China, whereas it decreased sharply. Okay, as compared to India, there was a staggering difference. It was after the year of 2030. Now please remember, again, one very crucial factor is after 2026. So if you are appearing for IELTS, please remember the year you are appearing. So for example, this is the year of 2026. So if any aspirant is appearing for your IELTS examination, anything after 2026 is gonna be in the projected values. So 2030, 2040, 2050, these are all projected values. Okay, and before 2026, it should be all referred to as past values. Okay, you should try to understand it from the perspective of this particular year. Okay, so again, when you are writing that what will be the population, it should be the projected population for in the year of 2030 would be more than 1400 billion for India and China. In this way, you need to analyze your graph. Now, how you can start to answer this particular question, right? So you need to represent it in 3 bodies, right? So there should be introduction, then your main body in which you will extract all the critical information from the statistical aspect, and then your conclusion part. So in the introduction part, you can mention about how the population, there is a line graph which is basically representing the population growth in India and China over the course of 50 years, starting from 2000 and 2050, like this, right? You can also mention that the total population is represented in billions, like this. You can mention it, right? Now, after this, in your main body, you need to start with the the first year itself, where the graph starts. So the origin point, which is 2000. Then you don't need to write each of these years, because if you start writing for each of the year what are the values, it will be setting a kind of monotonicity for the entire paragraph and essay, and also it will take a lot of time. So you'll definitely see a increase in their growth values, right? So after 2000 and 2030, they both will intersect in this particular year, but after this there are some major developments that we are seeing. So after 2030, India will continue to grow, whereas China will see a sharp decline. But again, when you are writing your conclusion, don't try to predict anything. What I mean is, what some individuals do is, while writing, they mention that China is seeing a sharp decline because of the policies they are going to implement. This is not mentioned anywhere in this graph. If you try to predict anything, this will deduct your score. So make it very clear that you don't need to predict any kind of things, right? Because anything apart from the data which are given over here, if you try to present them, that can definitely reduce your overall band score. Now, what you can write in conclusion, apart from mentioning any other thing, is you can mention one of the very critical factor, that from 2000 till 2030, we saw that both India and China grew at a significant rate. Till after 2030, there was a noticeable decline in the China's population, whereas India's population saw a sharp growth. So it is very essential for us to analyze in this manner. Now, moving forward, there is also the case of bar graph that can appear in your IELTS examination. Now, as I mentioned earlier, bar graph generally looks like this, where each of this segment is generally referred to as each separate bars, right? So if you see, this is basically a combined graph, you can see, but this is again, this can be considered as a combined graph, but only in the same category, okay, in the bar graph. So it's relatively simple, but whenever there is multiple graphs, you need to analyze it more efficiently. Okay, so this particular first graph highlights about the weight assessment of inhabitants of Charlestown in the year of 2015. So each color represent each factor. So like the reddish color represent underweight, the green color represent ideal, the orange or yellowish orange color represents your overweight, and the perfect orange represents your obese category, right? So in the x-axis, it is given the age range. What are the proportions of each category? So like underweight, if you see here, so basically there is a 20%, so from this you can calculate that it is 20%, right? So this is a stacked bar chart, right? Again, so in the range of 20 to 29 age group, underweight is of 20%, right? Now for ideal case, if you see, this is starting from 80%, the ideal starts, and starting from 80%, and then it ranges in 10%. So the total growth is around 70. So you can say that in 20 to 29 age range, the percentage of ideal weight is around 70%. So like this you need to analyze, but see, by just understanding about the graph itself, if you try to understand here, in 20 to 29 age group, generally the persons are more in the range of ideal age group in Charlestown, right? But as the age grows, if you see, persons are becoming more obese. Again, you don't need to predict anything. You don't need to say like a sedentary lifestyle or anything, because this is not given. It might be due to other causes in Charlestown, which we are not aware of, okay? Another trend is that underweight is basically decreasing in the age groups after 20 to 29, starting from 30 till 59. If you see, there is a significant decrease in underweight, but after 59 age group, starting from 60 to 69, there is again a increase in the number of people in the underweight category. Okay, so this is given for 2 separate years. So this is for 2015 and this is given for 1955. So like this, you have to analyze each of this part, and based on this you need to present it. Okay, moving forward, but I would say this is a stacked bar chart, so you should be able to understand how stacked bar chart operates, and these are some common concepts that you can generally refer from some school textbooks itself. Okay, there are some basic statistical concepts that are there, and you can just understand. Moving forward, there are pie charts. This is almost one of the most common charts that we often encounter during our daily life, in which there is a number of participants per game. So for Monopoly, for Candyland, for Jenga, for chess, for Twister, for poker, for Uno. So these are some of the games that are there. These are mostly the indoor games that are given, right? And based on this, you can analyze it. So for Candyland, if you see, this is the most number of participants. It consists of nearly about 23 persons. Then we have Monopoly. Then we have Twisters, right? Then we have chess, and like this you can. So you just can write your essay like this. So starting with the introduction, that what generally the pie chart is representing, that is the number of participants per game. How many categories are there? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So in a total of 7 categories. Okay. Then you need to write about the mean body, that is Candyland is consisting the maximum amount of participants. Then we have Monopoly, like this you need to mention, and at last the conclusion you need to just mention that which of the game has the most number of participants and which consists the least amount. Okay, like this you can formulate your entire essay. Now this is also one of the common questions that appears in task 1, that is writing. So in this, if you see, the data levels are given as language. What are the number of native speakers? Number of speakers as an additional language. So what does it mean is, these are native speakers. So that means they are born in this specific country and they are speaking this specific language. But additional language means it can be that persons who are in some other countries, but they are speaking this particular language. It can be due to a varied reason, but the main concern is there are persons who are living in other countries, but they are speaking this particular language. So for example, Mandarin Chinese, the native speakers are 900 million, whereas additional language speakers who are considering as an additional language is 190 million. Additional means they are speaking their own language also. They have a they could have a mother tongue as well, but additionally they are speaking this particular language. So this is a additional language for them. And what is the total number of speakers, right? So this is 1090 million speakers. Similarly for Hindi, if you see, there are 370 million and 120 million. Like this, all the languages are given. So some of the critical data that you can obtain is that Mandarin Chinese is the most spoken language across the world. Okay, this is clear from this fact of total number of speakers. The second highest is English, right, with a total of 942 million. Then we have Hindi of 490 million, then Spanish, then we have Arabic, and at the least we have Portuguese, right? So Portuguese is the least spoken, considering the total number of speakers across the world, which is 213 million, right? Now if you just consider this also, you can see that, but there is some tweaks. If you see, total number of speakers doesn't correlate both of this. Why? Because if you see, Mandarin Chinese additional language is spoken not that as compared to English. English is spoken the most, so almost all the persons from other countries speak English more than Mandarin Chinese, but there are native speakers which is ranking them the highest. Okay, In case of additional language, if you see, Portuguese is the least spoken language, right? So like this, you have to firstly, as I mentioned, the steps in the previous slides, that you need to highlight some of the critical features before you are trying to answer it. In this way, you can definitely save your time, right? And you can formulate a better structured essay. Moving forward, we have process. Now, what are processes? Now, if you see this particular diagram, this is showing us a particular hydroelectric operation, so for producing electricity. So if you see here, there is a hydro source, which is the wave, which is covered by a chamber. What happens is, this particular wave comes over and it pushes against this cliff or seawall. Okay, by this there is a release of air over here, and this particular air rotates this turbine. So this is a particular combination of, I would say, definitely there is a concept of hydroelectric, but there is also wind energy that is being used over here as well. Okay, because the wave that it creates, there is a air that is produced, which is going inside, and basically it is rotating the turbine, right? So the turbine is basically fixed within this column sets, and from rotating the turbine, there is a mechanical energy which is converted to this electricity source over here, right? So again, you need to remember that there is a chamber. One of the most important thing is the chamber and the cliff or seawall. What it does is, the chamber maintains the kind of wave patterns, and when the this particular hydro source hits the cliff or seawall, so that when the sea hits the wall, there is a production of air that generally goes into the turbine and it rotates. So this is the process example. So this is one such example. There can be different processes, but you need to understand the entire working or operational aspects from the diagram itself. Moving forward, now we have maps. If you see this maps, it is basically showing you a certain region. It is not mentioned, but it is generally showing you over the years from 1960 to 2000s. So some key features are that the main road stays the same, there is no change. But if you see, in 1960 there was a huge proportion of farmland that was there. Okay, and along with this there was shopping center, hospital, car park. In 1980, there was in place of this shopping center, there was cancer center and a pharmacy which was established. But the hospital remained the same and the car park. But in the area of farmland, there was a nursing school. But in 2000s, if you see, the cancer center was extended. So it basically enclosed the nursing school as well. And the nursing school basically shifted towards the right side. Okay, so the area, there was a more area that was available. So the car park, why the area got more? Because the car park was reduced, if you see from this aspect. Pharmacy and hospital remain the same. So from this particular, there is a significant noticeable changes that are there. So car park is definitely reduced because of this, and also nursing school, and because of this the cancer center got extended in the year of 2000. So you need to highlight the key features like this, okay, from this graph. Moving forward, there are combinations as well, right? So it may be hazy, but if I just mention you, this particular pie chart represents, there are 4 colors. Okay, if you are not able to visualize it, there is red color, yellow, blue, and a grayish color. So the red color, this particular zone represents car. The yellow represents LRT, which refers to light rail transit. This is the slight bluish color, which refers to bus, and this is the gray, which refers to taxi. But here, if you see, there is also another, you can see like a tabular format is given. Though it is an unconventional that I mentioned, but it is considered as a tabular format. The data levels are given on the right, and the data are referred to the right itself. Okay, and these are the reasons for using the car. Okay, so commute to work is primarily then there is shopping and leisure activities, which are both same of 15%. Taking children to school. So first is this, second is this. Second is this, right? Business. Third is this, right? taking children to school, and both of these are fourth, or you can say the least. Over here, if you try to analyze the pie chart, car is used the most, which is around 45%. Then we have the light rail transit of 35%. We have buses of 10% and taxi. So least contributions are made by bus and taxi. With a total, you can just amalgamate and write it as 20%, and then you need to mention it as separate also, okay, because it is given as separate terms. So moving forward, after combinations, there can be development as well, the developmental process for a certain organism. So you might be knowing the metamorphosis process that happens in a butterfly, right? So in this particular graph, it is given that the horse evolution is given. So starting from Eopus, Mesopus, okay, Macropus and horse modern. So the leg structure is getting different, right? So this is the developmental process that is denoted over here. Start with the practice questions as well. So the first segment is for the line graph, right? So moving forward, so the first question here is the consumption of the three spreads from the year of 1981 till 2007. So it is showing us the consumption of the spreads, especially for the categories of margarine, low fat and reduced spread, and butter. Now if you see some trends from this particular graph, in 1981 there was no evidence that low fat and reduced spread was consumed as compared to margarine and butter. In the year of 1981, margarine was started with approximate of 90 grams, whereas butter was the most popular, okay. Butter attained the at 1986, butter was the most popular among all the other spread, but after 1986 it saw a sharp decline. On the other hand, if you see low fat and reduced spread, it was comparatively popular. It basically gained popularity in shorter period of time compared to margarine and butter. On the other hand, if you see for margarine, it started at the year of 1981, as I mentioned, with a total of 90 grams. Over the year, it decreased in 1986 with a total of 80 grams, but after that it saw a rise. In 1991, it ranged in 100 grams, and after that it remained constant till 1996, and after that basically was decreased, right? It didn't encounter a staggering decline, but it generally saw a sharp decline, right? In the year of 2001, and after that there was a staggering decrease, right? So this was for margarine. Now comparing to low fat, it was generally introduced in the year of 1996, right? As compared to other, as I mentioned, it saw a significant rise, right? In 2001, it gains its highest popularity, or you can write as a peak if you want to refer it as statistical concepts. Then after that, it saw a decrease in 2007. But if you see in 2007, it was the most popular among all the three spread. So like this, you need to highlight some critical features, right? And based on this, you can answer your question. Now, I will show you a model answer. But it is important for every one of us to understand that you need to start every essay with the introduction part, which basically starts like this, that this particular diagram illustrates the consumption of spread like this, okay, from the year of 1981 till 2007. But it is again essential for every one of us to understand that this line can be paraphrased, and paraphrasing is one of the critical factors for our IELTS preparation, right? You need to also mention about the consumption of spread was measured in grams as a quantity, and year was on the x-axis, right? Grams was on the y-axis. This is you just can highlight this so that it can become easier for you, right? So now just try to practice yourself by highlighting such critical features, starting with the introduction. Then we have the main body. Just highlight some of the critical features over here, and then the conclusion part. Okay, as I mentioned, some of the conclusion aspects as well, right? like in 1981, there was no evidence that low fat was consumed, right? Again, in 1981, you can see that butter was the most popular, right? But in 1986, or even you can write that butter remained its popularity till 1986, which afterwards saw a sharp decline, right? In the year of 2007, you can say that low fat was the most consumed spread among all the other categories, right? So like this, you can just formulate your answer. Just take time of 20 minutes, right? And you need to remember that the word limit is 150. So write more than this in 20 minutes. You can just pause the video and complete your answer. Now let's start with the solution aspect of this particular question. So I'll just show you one model answer. You can just match your answer based on this particular solution. If you find something new, just highlight those information. Okay, so let's understand this particular solution together and try to formulate some key ideas from it. So if you see here, this particular essay has 4 paragraphs, right? So first, second, third, fourth. The first is always for intro. Always, in any essay when you are writing for IELTS, you should remember that the first paragraph remains your introduction, and the last is for conclusion. Right. This is the main body, which consists of all the essential ideas regarding the graph. So if you see here, it shows you the consumption of margarine and butter decreased over the period. So all the information are given over here, right? So just extract some quick information from here, and if you find anything new, just try to write it somewhere else. So if you see in the conclusion, it is written that the consumption of low fats and reduced spreads only started in 1996 at about 10 grams, right? Thus, this figure, which reached a high of just over 80 grams 5 years later, fell slightly in the final year to approximately 70 grams in 2007, right? So what it is writing is that basically it started in 1996 about 10 gram, but it reached very quickly at just 80 grams 5 years later, but fell slightly compared to others to approximately 70 grams. So it's talking about this particular graph, this red graph, right? So I hope that you have tried to answer this particular question. Please note that you need to practice more such questions to increase your fluency level. I would definitely recommend some of the books on materials that I have referred, and you can also definitely go through them to prepare for your IELTS journey. Now moving forward, let's understand another segment, which is the bar graph. So if you see here, it is given that a chart here shows the expenditure of 2 countries. What are the 2 countries? These are France and UK. France is represented by blue, UK is by orange. Showing the consumer goods in the year of 2010, it is generally in pound sterling. So when we are writing a figure, please remember that if anything is mentioned, please mention, if you are writing like 3,50,000, I'm talking about in Indian terms, or if you are mentioning like 350,000, please mention this as a pound sterling. Okay, always. So there are 5 categories: cars, computers, books, perfume, and cameras, right? So if you just see here, the first thing that every person does is just notice the trend. So UK, in case of cars, UK was the expenditure was highest among the other country, right? France, in the year of 2010 for the category of cars. Okay, so basically this is the expenditure for consumer goods, right? So people have a preference towards cars in the year of 2010 at about just about more than 450,000 pounds sterling. Okay, in France it was around 400,000. Another key feature to highlight in the case of bar graph is the minimal data quantity, right? So for UK only, UK encountered a minimum data in the case of perfumes, right? So what was the pound sterling? So it was slightly less than 150,000. So you can just calculate the midpoint again from, as I mentioned earlier, and you can just mention a rough figure. Okay, so for this kind of graph, always mention your maximum value and your minimum value. Now for France again, you can mention about the highest, which is for cars, right? Now if you want to elaborate, you can mention for both the countries about the second highest, third highest, if you have time, but I would generally mention you the quantities in such a way that you also try to formulate each of your points maintaining your time limit as well, right? But for cameras, if you see, this was the least in case of France. So always this term is very important, that you need to understand about max and minimum, and you need to maintain a order which is either in decreasing order, right? Either in decreasing or in increasing. Don't change this suddenly. If you are comparing in this way, in a decreasing manner, for every data value, try to present this in a decreasing way itself. Okay? And if you are doing it on the other way, in increasing manner, then again maintain the same order. So maintaining the same order is essential for every essay, right? So I'll just give you some time. You can quickly write your answer and then let's move ahead. So I hope that you have solved your question. At least you have tried to answer it. I would suggest you, if you are not able to articulate your points in your primary stage. So for example, if a person is there and is very new to this particular program, so I would suggest them to use some kind of AI tools for their preparation stage only. Okay, just try to paraphrase your answers, okay, using those AI tools, right? And based on this, you can get a overall idea about how the things are occurring. Okay, now let's look at the solution. So just look from here, you can see again there is an introduction, there are two main bodies, and again there is a conclusion, right? So the chart illustrates the amount of money, as I mentioned, that there was 5 consumer goods: cars, computer, books, perfume, and cameras in France and the UK in the year of 2010. Units are measured in pound sterling. So overall, UK spent more money, as it is evident from the figure itself. France, both the British and the French, spent most of their money on car, whereas the least amount of money was spent on perfume in the UK compared to cameras in the France. So if we just see, both the British spent mostly on their car, as it is evident from this particular figure, right? The car segment saw both of these countries spent the most, whereas perfume was the least, right? Furthermore, the most significant, now see here, there is a linking word also used over here, right? So I will mention those in the last slide, but it is very essential to use those kind of linking words as well. The most significant difference in expenditure was on cameras. Okay, if you just check here, on cameras, the peak you see is very significant. If you just compare, or you can just differentiate, but just by visualizing you can just see it. Okay, in terms of car, people spent about 450,000, which is evident. Similarly, the British expenditure was higher on books than the French, and in the UK, expenditure on camera was over double that of France, which was only about 150,000 pounds sterling, right? So you can just articulate your points from here. Please refer this with the previous figure. If you find something new, please write in the comment section that you have found out something new. But apart from that, you can just note out those particular points and you can refer this for the upcoming questions. So now here it is for the pie charts. So you can visualize that this pie charts here shows the comparison of different kind of energy production of France in the 2 years. So there is the comparison of energy production. Now there are some key highlights. I'll just make it. So again, this is for 2 years, 1995 and 2005, and it is for the majorly for 5 categories: for gas, petrol, nuclear, there is a other, and this you can consider as miscellaneous, and coal. Okay, so this is for energy production, right, of France in 2 years. So gas contribute, if you see here in 1995, gas and coal was the majority. Then we have starting on, I'll just mention that coal was the most in case of 1995. Then we have gas, right, and then moving on we have petrol. Okay, apart from this we have nuclear energy as well, and there are others which were contributing the least, right? But just compare it with 2005. So see, for pie charts, how you can design your essays. Start with the introduction, right? Then move on to your body, where you explain about 1995 first, right? Then you explain about 2005. Then you compare 1995 versus 2005. This might look extended, but over repeated practice this becomes like a mechanistic way and you are able to do it efficiently. And then your conclusion, right? So in the year of 2005, if you see, coal was the maximum, then you have gas, right? Apart from that, you have petrol, which was the third highest, then we have nuclear, and then we have other. So the significant, petrol was decreased. So energy production in the sector of petrol was decreased from 29.27% to 19.55% in 2005. Gas increased, right? Coal also increased. Other other energy production also increased, but in the case of nuclear, it also increased. So the significant striking factor is petrol, which basically decreased. Apart from this, every other factor increased, right? So here the exception is for petrol only, right? Okay. If you are able to find something new, you can definitely write it in the comment section. But let's move ahead and look at the model answer itself. So you can just pause here and you can formulate your own answer. Just follow this pattern as I mentioned here. Start with the intro, mention about all the percentages in 1995, then 2005, compare 1995 versus 2005, conclusion. Maintain a timer of 20 minutes and try to keep words above 150 plus. Okay, so let's move ahead. You can just refer to this solution, right? If you find again some new point, just note it down or just mention it in the comment section also, so that other people can also see. Moving ahead, we have tables. Now if you see here, the table again shows you the consumer spending, right? Just give me a moment. About the consumer spending on different items in 5 different countries. So the 5 different countries are Ireland, Italy, Spain, Sweden and Turkey. The categories are food, drinks, tobacco, clothing or footwear, and we have leisure or education. Okay. So if you are writing, please always mention, don't try to mention anything. See, if you are mentioning this particular data level, always mention in this way only. Food, it is always better to suggest like this, because what happens is, See, either this question is given in this manner that it can appear like in one way. Often when you try to refer in this way, it doesn't change the integral part of the data itself. So try to always, in case of I are mentioning in the tables itself. Okay. So what are the striking ideas that you can think from here is, see, in the case of Ireland, they spent the most, the consumers spent the most in the case of food, drinks or tobacco, 28.91%, right? If you see, the second highest was Spain. So how you can basically try to formulate your answer, start with an introduction mentioning about the countries, about the consumer spreading in the year of 2002 for all the countries. Okay, then you start with don't go like this. Okay, what I mean is, don't go for each country, rather go for this labels. Always try to go for the least amount of data labels that has. So if you see here, in the case of columns, we have different values as compared to rows, right? So in this way, for a table, always go for the least data label, and in this category, columns are there are less column as compared to rows. So always refer like this only. So based on this, you can just mention about all the countries, and then you can just have a basic comparison, right? So start with this, the main body, then mention about each of the category like food, drinks or tobacco, and then you can try to compare between all these categories. Okay, so if you see here, if you just compare between in the case of food only, don't compare one column with another. This column is only having data labels for this aspect itself, right? So compare each row. So first is Turkey, then we have Ireland, right? Then we have Spain, we have Italy, and then Sweden. So always go on the decreasing manner. So start with Turkey, right? And in the decreasing manner. So start with Turkey, which is greater than Ireland, which is greater than, like this. You need to move ahead. In the case of clothing also, the same pattern, and for leisure. So in the third paragraph you mention here. So for each, try to show a comparison for each paragraph. So for example, over here you mention about food, drinks and tobacco, right? So I'm just abbreviating it in FDT. Then we have clothing and footwear, and then we have leisure or education, and then we have the conclusion, right? You can just pause the video and you can try to formulate your answer. Again, please mention that there is a 20-minute time period and 150 plus watt. Hope you have solved this particular question. So just refer to the solution. I'll just mention it and you can take ideas from here. Moving ahead, we have process as well. Let's understand this process. So here this particular diagram shows how rainwater is collected for the use of drinking water in an Australian town. So what happens, if you see, it is showing that this is a basin, okay, and mainly the refined, or you can say the processed water, is generally used for drinking purposes. Now the process starts how it basically starts with the rainwater, which is flowing down a pipe through a drain into the underground water filter, right? And rainwater is collected from each houses in this manner, right? After it traverses through this pipe, it generally reaches to this water filter, which then passes into the storage section, right? So see, this is the first process where the rainwater is collected through drain. The second, you can write it as it then passes, and this is also the second process. It gets inserted into the water filter. After that, it is passed into the storage where the water is generally stored, and which then processes into the water treatment, right? The water treatment is usually done using some chemicals, and then the processed water is usually available for drinking purposes. So here for the process, again you can start with introduction section, which just you mention this particular line, that how the rainwater is collected for the use of drinking water. Then you start with the main body, where you mention about how many steps are there. So in total there are 4 steps. Okay, you can also break down if you want, but in general there are 4 steps. Then you mention about the entire process using words, and then the conclusion part. Okay, now moving ahead, the solution for this particular, you can just note it down, and you can just take ideas from here and paraphrase your answer accordingly. Now for maps, here it basically shows you Meadowside village and Fontaine, a neighboring town, since 1962. So basically, if you see here, for 1962, here we have Meadowside village, and here you have Fontaine. So the area is mostly empty. But if you see here, the Meadowside village was basically equipped with a leisure complex, a housing estate, and a superstore, whereas Fontaine was not, and you can also see that there was connectivity which was also there to enhance the traveling patterns between Meadowside village and Fontaine. Moving forward, now if you see, the Meadowside suburbs is now basically the thing remains same, but if you see here, there is so this is the rail track, so there is a business park that is attached, and there is a station over here. Okay, there is also a hotel over here, okay, which is established in the region between Meadowside village and Fontaine. Okay, so like this you can just analyze your maps as well. So I'm just going to show you the solution as well, so please refer to the solution. Again, the same pattern, introduction is there, right? If you see here, this is generally as a conclusion you can definitely help, but in writing part often this thing appears before the main body as well. Some they try to present their ideas like this, but I generally start with an introduction, then the main bodies, then we have a conclusion. Okay, essentially it can reduce your time, but this is also a very correct structure if you want to refer. So if you see here, there are various things written, like both Meadowside Fontaine increased in size, which is evident by their from the maps. Then they eventually merged, at which they become a suburb. Further, they have significant changes to infrastructure, housing, and facility. You can also add the connectivity as well. In 1962, both Meadowside and Fontaine were completely separate with no roads or rail, as it is evident. If you see here, there was no connectivity. Okay, so the connectivity was not present over here. They were separate. By 1985, Meadowside expanded and the small road became a main road. So this particular small road become like a main road, or a main connectivity road as well, right? And within a Meadowside, there was a superstore, leisure complex, and housing estate. And by the time, Fontaine had also grown in size. Now, currently, Meadowside is known as Meadowside suburbs after joining with Fontaine. Between both places, a hotel, station, and business parks have been built on either side of the railway line. So just refer to this structure, and you can definitely answer this particular question. Now, moving forward, the particular graph, it is actually a line graph, right? And this particular graph is for a, you can say it as a column charts, right? Okay. Okay, so if you see here, just refer in the same way like a line graph itself, but the main thing over in case of combination graph is that you start with the introduction aspect itself, right? Then start with the main body 1. Now, which is main body 1? It basically refers to this graph. Okay, try to extract information from this graph. Then you start with main body 2. Okay, that is most popular country visited by UK resident. Okay, see this, both these graphs are not, you can say, you can connect, but there is no inter-existing relation. I mean, there is no definite relationship that is existing. So I would rather suggest that you, in combination, you try to represent both of this as separate. If there are any relationships, you can establish, connect this main body 1 versus main body 2. Okay, and then write your conclusion. Okay. Moving forward, again the solution is given over here. You can just refer to this solution. Now, the major areas where definitely students lack or there is a poor performance, there are certain attributes towards that. The first is time management. As I mentioned, this video is for writing section part 1. So this is for 20 minutes. So try to manage everything under 20 minutes, or else you are not be able to complete your entire paragraph or the passage, right? The paraphrasing was also a very key factor. I mean, if you are trying to understand, for example, you start the intro like this given diagram illustrate, like this. Okay, try to paraphrase it. Okay, you can definitely change diagram as picture. Okay, you can refer illustrate as depicts, like this. Okay, so for this I would definitely suggest dictionary, right? Because this is the only source that you have currently, right? So always refer to some dictionaries for this particular your paraphrasing ideas, right? For grammar also, again mention, there can be errors in tense, articles and sentence structure. So this is, this you can definitely improve using certain practice only. Because you might study grammar itself, but again, if you are not practicing enough, you might not understand the structure in which the IELTS passage is being formulated. So it's very essential that you practice to solve this particular problem. So as I mentioned, for time management, then for paraphrasing, use dictionaries. I'm just writing it in abbreviated forms, and I'm just erasing this part as well, right? So that it becomes cleaner. For grammar, you can refer to again, you can refer to dictionaries, but I would suggest please practice. This is essential. Okay, listening, I would say this particular area is for the listening part as well. But again, if you are concentrating, please increase your concentrating power as well. You can often do this by practice, again, repeatedly listening to certain clips, and try to spend some time on giving efforts towards this examination, or sitting for long hours. This can definitely increase your concentration. See, data analysis is one very important crucial factor that often misses. That during any task 1, you need to critically assess the data before you are trying to highlight any feature. Okay, so, and don't make predictions. Okay, I would say anything which you are trying to formulate should be based out of that certain data sets itself. Idea generation is also once again, this can be done through practice itself. The more you do practice, there will be more varied kind of exposure that you get. So this particular, if you see, there is some question which are definitely there, but again, if you refer to other sources, you can get more idea. The vocabulary building is again through exposure to various materials, right? So if you search internet and go through various materials, you can explore different kind of questions, and based on that, by observing their answers, you can increase your vocabulary. Speaking fluency, again, this is the part of speaking, but again, there should be the confidence, and long pauses should definitely be removed as much as possible. Reading skills is also essential, especially for for the writing part. Also, reading is essential to understand the question and to extract information, right? Anxiety is there, but this thing is something which is manageable. If you are well prepared, then definitely anxiety can be decreased, right? but you should be practicing some techniques which are there, which can definitely decrease your anxiety. But again, please practice as much as possible, so that there is no tense moment in during your IELTS examination, especially for writing task 1. Now this is important. Let's understand about the linking words. Okay, so if you see here, this can play a role in the paraphrasing as well, right? So if you start with the introduction part, you can highlight several keywords like this. So I'm just going to scroll it. Just take a screenshot of this particular slide, and you can just write it in somewhere, so that you can use this whenever you are trying to formulate. So introducing or starting, you can use this kind of linking words, right? So whenever you're starting with your introduction, during formation of sentences, you can provide this kind of keywords. Then there are some overall trend or general statements as well. So for example, this kind of trends which are generally seen, right? So this is mainly helpful during your conclusion aspects, right? Now for comparing, as I mentioned, that after main body 1 and main body 2, if you are trying to compare between two data points or data values, you can use this kind of keywords. Highlighting is also important. If you want to highlight some key features, you can use this kind of things. Showing increase or growth, like there are several keywords which you can increase. As I mentioned already, that there can be a sharp increase or steady increase. This kind of things you can rise. Decline, you can again use this kind of, there is shrank, plummeted, all this kind of words. Stability is also, as in the previous line graph, there was a data point where it was an usual relationship which showed that there was a stability which was existing. And if there is a fluctuation as well, you can write this kind of keywords. So now let's move together. So just give me a moment. Let's move together, and let's move and conclude this particular session by mentioning some of the references I've used, and also some of the sources you can use. So for writing, I would definitely mention some of the Cambridge books that are available. Okay. Apart from that, there are websites such as IELTS Liz, which is already mentioned. Then definitely there are online materials, so that can be used. But apart from that, please try to you can even send your essays to some certified examiner, or you can assess it using some AI tools as well. Okay, so this part is mainly for assessing. Okay, if you're facing difficulty, you can also use AI tools for creating your answer as well. Just provide them the prompt, and they will try to give you a specific answer. Based on that, you can definitely build your vocabulary, right? So this is all I would say, and please stay tuned for the upcoming videos, especially for writing task 2 as well.